Good evening, I'm Esther Githui Ewart. This is Africa 54. Welcome and Happy New Year. Nelson Mandela once said the difference we have made to the lives of others is what will determine the significance of the life we lead. Answering his grandfather's call to making a difference, Daba Mandela talks about his endeavors and activism in this discussion with Africa 54's Lino Mudu.
Daba Mandela, welcome to the Voice of America.
Thank you very much.
When I say Nelson Mandela, give me 3 words.
Grandfather, courageous, fearless.
Can you elaborate a little more?
Courageous and fearless, obviously they go together. But, I mean, that is the man who went against the system, who sacrificed his family, sacrificed his own life for the greater good of his people. So for me, even when they isolated him in his later years as an old man to try and get him to denounce his political party and his fellow comrades, and they tried to, persuade him with luxury and all kinds of things, he never waned. He always stayed focused on the dream that was at hand.
Tell us how it inspired you in terms of the choices that you made.
Growing up, Michael Jackson came to visit us twice. Bush, Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, you name it. When I saw how they admired and just revered at the fact that they were able to spend a day or an hour with Nelson Mandela. Obviously, that inspired me to say, wow, this man, this is the work he does. This is why he's respected. And, it happens indirectly, subconsciously.
Yes.
He influenced me to move in that direction. Because, one day my grandfather said to me when I was much younger, he said, Daba, you are Mandela. Therefore, people will look at you as a leader. Yes. And as a leader, you must get the best marks in class. And that's one of the things that stick out today, because he was preparing me to take up this role, preparing me to say, whether you like it or not, you're Mandela. Therefore, these are the expectations that come with your lineage, my boy.
You are the co-founder of the Africa Rising Foundation. Tell us about the foundation and why it was important for you to launch it.
Well, I was very lucky to have traveled around the world with my grandfather and obviously with my cousins and brothers. Very privileged. And when I did that, I realized that people outside of the continent of Africa have very little knowledge of Africa. And the little knowledge that they have is negative information. That Africa is a place of war, poverty, disease, and dictators. So we decided that we need to do something about this misconception of Africa. And so we got together with my friends, and I told them about this, and I realized that this was in the mind of a lot of youth. And so we felt that in order for us to break down these misconceptions, we need to focus on empowering the youth, because it will take 2 or 3 generations for this misconception to truly be broken down. So we felt the best way would be through education, technology, entrepreneurship development, and celebrating African culture, we would be able to, over time, break this misconception.
You are a global ambassador for UNAIDS. Tell us about your engagement in this cause, HIV/AIDS, and why it was so important for you to get involved.
First of all, both my parents died of HIV/AIDS. And as you know, this epidemic has ravaged our country and the continent over. And, the stigma of this disease was something that was really killing us, because it was not like any other disease that we've ever seen before. It came with the question of morality, because if you've contracted HIV/AIDS, you have been engaging in immoral behavior. You understand? You have been sleeping around. You have been not protecting yourself. You have been doing XYZ, which is nasty, which is terrible, which we cannot talk about. We must hide. And so when people contracted this disease, they died in silence. They died alone. They died with shame. So it was important for my grandfather, first of all, when our father died, to disclose that our father, his child, had died from HIV/AIDS. And that was one of the turning points in our country, because one of the biggest family, if not the biggest family, had disclosed to the world that HIV/AIDS has taken the life of their own. And so it gave courage to other families to also start talking and fighting the stigma that exists. Obviously, the fight continues. People must not be naive or have any misunderstanding. HIV is still very much alive, and kicking, and we need to defeat this disease. I then was asked to be an ambassador of UNAIDS just shortly before the World Cup in South Africa in 2010, and I've been serving ever since. And of course, because I've been a victim of it indirectly, you know, it's a no-brainer that I continue to fight and champion this cause, because it also has to do with the rights of minorities, people with different sexualities. You know, it's about discrimination, the very same discrimination we faced during apartheid of South Africa. So I champion this cause, and it's something that I'm very passionate about, and I wish many more people can join us in this fight against HIV/AIDS, because we want to end discrimination, we want to end the infections, and we want to end the deaths that are related to HIV/AIDS.
Ndaba Mandela, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Ndabulela.
That was Damba Mandela speaking with Africa 54's Lino Mudu. Now, like athletes who get injured while playing sports, many musicians suffer occupational pain, repetitive strain, and overuse injuries. But unlike athletes, there is a stigma around musicians' injuries, and some don't get the help they need. That's why the Peabody Institute of Johns Hopkins University founded the Johns Hopkins Center for Music and Medicine. As Faiza El-Masri reports, the center uses a holistic wellness model to better care for the musicians. VOA's Faith Lapidus narrates.
Double bassist Chelsea Strayer is a freshman at Peabody Conservatory.
I try to get in about like 3 hours a day of practicing, plus on top of, you know, having other rehearsals for a few hours normally every day.
The long hours and intensity of the repetitive movement caused pain.
I've had pain in my arm before here, but it's never been in my wrist area before. And I've gotten bruising quite a few times now in the same place in my hand.
You really want to avoid any pressure on your elbow.
Strayer's teacher encouraged her to visit the Center for Music and Medicine clinic located on campus. Co-founder Sarap Bashtepa-Gray told her musicians get injured more often than people realize, whether it's tendinitis or a sprain.
4 out of 5 musicians who play an instrument will get injured during their career at least once. 1 will recover and get back merely to playing their instrument. 2 will continue playing but will have chronic problems with acute episodes along the way. And unfortunately, 1 will discontinue their art because of injury.
Bashtepa-Gray, a medical doctor who plays the guitar, is familiar with both the joy and pain of playing an instrument.
That nerve in this position is bent right here, so it's under pressure.
Associate Dean Sarah Hoover says having a clinic on campus sends a message to student musicians.
I think that they also understand that it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to go to their teachers when they have a concern. They don't have to hold it inside.
It's made me much more aware of, you know, that I need to take breaks, and that it's okay to take breaks because, you know, it's better to take a break than be out.
Now, Johns Hopkins biomedical engineers and neurologists are working to develop a new smart guitar that will measure how much pressure a guitarist is placing on his or her arm and fingers while playing.
I think it would be valuable in training musicians with evidence-based pedagogy so that they can develop certain motor skills more quickly without a lot of repetition, which repetition is also one of the occupational hazards.
Bashtepa-Gray says this approach can help musicians enjoy what they like most, playing music without suffering injuries. For writer Faiza El-Masri in Baltimore, Faith Lapidus, VOA News.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Still ahead on Africa 54, young African innovators bring the digital marketplace local. We'll be right back.
Voices, we're talking about the news and issues you're talking about, sharing stories of development and growth across Africa, around the world, and in our lives. Topics that inform, empower, and change the rules. It's time for Our Voices with me, Haiti Adams Fitzpatrick,
and Hadiza Kiari,
and Ayan Bior,
and Orion Itangi Shaka.
It's time for Our Voices.
Could be French,
English,
Portuguese,
Bantu,
Arabic.
It is the beat.
The African beat that counts.
The beat does all the translations.
It cuts across all languages and gives us the understanding that this is the African beat.
It is so distinct
and adhesive.
It binds us together.
African beat on the Voice of America. For more information, visit our website at www.voanews.com/AfricanBeat.
300 local artists here in Washington, D.C. area came together to showcase American values using their visual art skills. The installation art they created featuring immigration stories makes a powerful visual statement that diversity is the strength of the U.S. VOA's June Saul visited the One House Project exhibit at the Black Rock Art Center outside the Capitol. Carol Pearson narrates.
This large house structure built inside the gallery at the Black Rock Art Center is covered with 300 panels created by 300 artists. Each panel is dedicated to the artist's ancestors who took the journey to the U.S., whether voluntary or not.
We have 6 artists who trace their ancestry to the Mayflower, which arrived in 1620 in Massachusetts. It goes through all of the major waves of immigration from Europe, from Asia, from South America, all the way up to artists who arrived themselves about a year or two ago from the Middle East.
Ellen Weiss, a co-organizer of the One House Project, dedicated her panel to her grandfather, who fled religious persecution in Romania in 1900. He purchased a business property in Philadelphia.
The Philadelphia Historical Society certified that his building was a stop on the Underground Railroad, which was used to help slaves escape from the South before the Civil War. And I just thought that was such a beautiful story about how we are all intertwined in this country.
The One House Project is the brainchild of Art Watch, a group of artists from the Washington, D.C. region.
We formed about 2 years ago to develop projects that use our visual art skills to stand up for the values and the principles about America that are right. Democracy, inclusion, unity, tolerance. This is the largest project that we've done so far.
The artists' families hail from all over the world.
We represent a very wide swath of the world that's came to the U.S., fleeing persecution, seeking a better life, fleeing extreme poverty. And these are the elements that still drive migration today. It never has changed.
The structure also includes panels created by Native American artists whose ancestors lived here before Europeans arrived. Others tell the story of slavery.
I did a drawing part of Africa because we kind of know that's where we come from, but not in certain parts and sections. I drew part of the United States and North Carolina because of the little bit that I could trace. Even though we were brought here involuntarily, we also believed in hope and opportunity.
Kyujin Lee depicted her departure from South Korea and arrival in America.
So to represent that, I used the image of a pair of hands stitching or knitting from unraveled threads. And so unraveling represents the separation part of my journey to this country. And rethreading is sort of my reconnecting to, adapting to a new land.
The exhibit also incorporates audio and video recordings of the artists telling their immigration stories.
The One House Project makes a powerful visual statement that we come in this country from all over the world, but we support each other, and diversity is our strength.
For producer June So, I'm Carol Pearson, VOA News, Washington.
Studies in Africa show that online retail markets are changing consumer patterns and behavior, with millions of people going online to buy and sell goods and services. Many use global platforms like Amazon and Alibaba. However, the changes in consumer habits driven by increased access to the internet are inspiring young African innovators to create online marketplaces for the local consumer. VOA's Jackson Vunganyi visits Hehe, a startup in Rwanda's capital, Kigali, which is helping local companies build online market platforms for their customers.
In developing countries, specifically those around the African continent, increased mobile penetration and internet access is creating a new class of consumers who are attracted to the non-traditional marketplace, the kind that provides them with easy and convenient access to goods and services. Now, these changes are providing opportunities for young tech entrepreneurs in Africa to innovate around what experts are calling Africa's digital revolution. One such entrepreneur is Clarisse Iribagiza. As a young college student, Clarisse founded Hehe, a startup software development company in Rwanda's capital, Kigali. Her company builds software for companies, mainly startups, trying to reach a wider market. Hehe was recently acquired by DMM Group, a Japanese entertainment conglomerate. DMM retained Clarisse and her workforce. Her team is currently building digital storefronts for companies that will provide customers with different options as they shop around online for things like groceries. On a continent where youth unemployment remains an issue, the growing digital economy is providing opportunities for young people to find skilled, well-paying jobs. And DMM Hehe's workforce are mainly young college graduates. Clarisse says that the open office model encourages a collaborative environment.
At Hehe, we've actually always had the open floor plan for our teams from day one. It's the first time we've actually had like closed off boardrooms or small meeting rooms, but it's always been open floor plan, and we'll sit in teams, but then we also have free seating if you just feel like you want to go all by yourself and maybe sit over here in the meditation space, or there's a small event space that we have over there that you could also use. There's a couch area. We do have a Japanese tea room. Yes,
inspired by DMM.
Yeah, part of our Japanese heritage. So every once in a while, we think we'll be hosting Japanese tea sessions. But yeah, we have various teams sitting here from marketing, operations, the dev team.
It is break time, and everyone congregates in the break room, except this tea room serves coffee and biscuits. Over animated banter on various issues, we talk about the work culture in the growing company. Rachel is the human resources manager, and she says that when hiring new employees, expertise is not a key attribute. They often look for a personality that fits in their collaborative work culture.
Technical skills can always be trained. You can always be trained and become better.
Yeah, character is really key. Character. Are you self-driven? Are you passionate about tech? Do you have basic values like integrity, honesty, and a bunch of things that really make us human before being machines, which most people are here?
Yeah, right. That's the point. We do Scrum every day where we talk about what each department is doing to keep, for everyone to be aware of what is happening in the company. So normally someone from each department normally represents and talks about what they're doing. So it all comes up to teaching people about soft skills and developing them.
We've actually had great feedback, and we are trying to keep up with that demand. So we've had to quickly grow our team just to be able to get all these stores online in time.
DMM Hehe is perhaps one of the best examples of a thriving startup culture that is taking root around the African continent. Reports show that African startups are attracting millions of dollars in investment, many in the fintech sector. And Clarice says that startups succeed when they focus on finding solutions to a local challenge.
We like to think that we are unique, and we're always trying to stay ahead of the pack, stand out. But yeah, there are a bunch of startups. Josh here had a startup. Have you been counting?
I didn't count, but there are many. But I failed.
Despite some failed initiatives, there is no doubt that investors see the long-term potential of investing in a market that has promising macro trends and an estimated working population of over 1 billion young people by the year 2034. For Voice of America, I'm Jackson Vunganyi.
At just 9 years old, she has taken the United Kingdom by storm with her dazzling dance moves. Camille Hunter, known as Princess K, has performed all across Britain and the United States with exceptional artists. Born in North London to West Indian parents, her dancing style is rooted in Africa. Reporter Imwetinyan Ugebe tells the story of how it all began.
Camille Hunt is a 9-year-old British sensational dancer. Her more than 60,000 Instagram followers know her as Princess K. She has collaborated with some of the biggest names in the African music industry. Artists like Wizkid, Adekunle Gold, Yemi Alade and Afro B are just a few. She was just 7 years old when she started dancing. During her Leap of Faith tour in the US, I met up with Princess K and her mother, Sabrina Hunt, to learn how it all began.
We do have a connection in terms of our heritage to Ghana. So she has Ghanaian heritage. So I feel like in her DNA, she has that blood and it comes through her veins. So it basically translates in her dancing.
Princess K is part of a dance group called Them Three Dancers.
And my brother, Omarion, Malachi, you can call him, one or the other, and Isaiah, Damari, you can call him one or the other. And I'm in a siblings group with them, and we just do like go to arenas together, and we like do little routines together. And we all have a different style, but like when it comes to all of us together, we have to work as a team and we have to synergize, so yeah.
During her New York City tour, she performed at the Nigerian Independence Day Parade, and she also paid a visit to the Apollo Theatre.
Mum was like, oh, that's the Apollo Theatre where Michael Jackson used to perform. And I was like, really? And I was like, am I allowed to go and take a picture over there?
Princess K's dancing career may very much be on its way to greatness, but her mother, Sabrina, wants it all to unfold organically, and she, of course, wishes her daughter great success.
My goal for my daughter is for her to be a success and for her to do whatever she wishes to do and to live out her dreams.
In a few years from now, I would have to wait in a long line to get an autograph. But before that becomes the norm, I think I would better learn some of her dance moves.
Okay. So your legs are doing.
Okay. Oh.
So your legs
so my
are
legs
doing
are doing
that.
this? Okay.
Then you go like
and then
this.
how do I put my body in?
It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but I'll keep my job as a reporter. Princess K wants to tour around the world, and she wants to continue to work with remarkable artists. Imwetinyan Ugebe for VOA News, Washington.
Now we have a special treat. VOA Music Time in Africa host Heather Maxwell introduces us to a colorful artist with a smooth voice.
I'm sitting here with a rising star from Ghana and the U.S. Her name is Amare, and we're in East Legon, where she lives, and we're having a chit-chat about who is Amare.
What you really got to say?
pretty girl with bumper and a little waist. Skin so smooth, I mean it's hard to look away.
I am a singer, a songwriter, a producer, and the message that I'm carrying across is more about self-expression. You see, my hair is blue, so
I do see that. It's sparkly also.
Yeah, yes, it's glittering as well. And I always have different hair colors. So one thing that I'm really trying to push across is about freedom and just freedom of expression, and doing that through song and doing that through the way that I dress and the way that I express myself in other ways and in other parts of my career as well.
So what is your most exciting, most recent work?
So right now, I have my EP out. It's called Passion Fruit Summers, and we have this fantastic song on it. It's called Fluid, and we have gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous video that we just shot and put out a month ago. So I think right now that's the most exciting thing that I have out, and that's what people are really gravitating to as well.
See, I didn't think I'd see the day where I should all this water away. You had me plummeting like anger, babe. You had me drowning in your fountain shape.
What is Fluid about?
Fluid is an interesting metaphor. It's a metaphor. I feel like I want to leave that up to the audience to listen and then to judge.
You say that freedom of expression is really important to you. What kind of experiences have shaped that desire to sing and write about that topic?
I've always been the rebel in my family. Traditional African kids should not be able to color their hair the way that, they color their hair. Being a kid in a family, like, one thing is that nobody wants their kid to be a musician. So I really pushed the boundaries in my family, and I started working in a studio when I was 17 years old. And I remember my parents being so against it. But as I pushed and as I showed them that I'm taking over my independence, this is what I want to do, this is how I'm going to do it, and I'm going to make sure that I do it to the best of my ability. And that resonates in my songwriting as well.
I don't want to waste my time on mistakes.
Can you just sample a teeny bit of one song a cappella? Your voice is so beautiful.
Okay.
I'm feeling so fluid, yeah, yeah. Baby, let go. You can do it. Just do it. Fluid.
I love that voice. I love that voice. So what's next for you? After this EP, are you going to put out some more videos, or are you working on a whole entirely different project?
Definitely videos. We have some amazing videos that we went out to LA to shoot. And then during that time, I'm probably thinking some singles and some collaborations with other artists, and then go underground and work on my next project, work on my album.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you, too. I appreciate you taking the time out for this.
This is Heather Maxwell, host of Music Time in Africa, under starry skies in East Legon, Ghana, with Amare.
And that's our show for this New Year's Day. Have a good night.